Krishna. Welcome to Kids Krishna Katha. And now let's start. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Miti Namine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur Bhagavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Gadadhara Srivasadi Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur Bhagavinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya
भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, नाम जय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा श्याम सुंदर जी की जय, श्री राधा गिरिधारी भगवान की जय, जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा मैया की जय, श्री गौर निताय की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंद। All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Guru Rama. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srila Gurudev.
Hare Krishna to you all and welcome back to another session of Kids Krishna Katha. So last week we started the story of Krishna's appearance in the material world. And today we are going to be continuing that story. So before we start, I'll quickly summarize whatever happened last week. So, remember when Kamsa was driving the chariot of his sister Devaki and his brother-in-law Vasudev's chariot, a voice suddenly proclaimed in the sky that the 8th child of Devaki would be his end. And so then Vasudev protected Devaki from Kamsa's anger and fear, because he was just so angry. He took out his sword and he was about to kill Devaki, but Vasudev pacified Kamsa. And finally he was pacified and they went their ways. And true to his word, when Vasudev brought their first child to Kamsa, Kamsa felt very compassionate on seeing his first nephew. And so he told Vasudev that he could keep his first child. After all, the harm would come from the 8th child, not the first child. And so, feeling doubtful, Vasudev went back. And Devaki and Vasudev were both very happy to have their child. So, now let's see what happens next. At that time, Narada came to see Kamsa. He was informed of Kamsa's being compassionate towards Devaki and Vasudev's first child. He informed Kamsa that personalities like Nanda Maharaj and all the cowherd men and girls and the wives of the cowherd men in Vrindavan, and on the other side, Vasudev, his father Surasen, and his relatives born in the family of Vrishni of the Yadu dynasty were preparing for the appearance of the Lord. Narada warned Krishna to be careful of his friends and well-wishers and all the demigods taking birth in those families. Kamsa and his friends and advisors were all demons. So whoever he associated with, they were all demons. Not one of them was a good person who gave good advice. After being thus informed by Narada about the appearance of the demigods in different families, Kamsa at once became alert. Demons are always afraid of demigods. He understood that since the demigods had already prepared, Lord Vishnu must be on his way. He at once had his brother-in-law Vasudev and his sister Devaki arrested and put behind bars. Now some people may ask, why did Narada do this? Why did Narada say this to make Kamsa angry and throw his relatives into prison? But there is a reason. There is always a reason for everything. Krishna's plan always has a reason for it, though we may not be able to perceive it at first. So, Narada did this to accelerate the descent of the Lord as soon as possible. Because Kamsa was being compassionate towards his nephew, he was doing some good deed, and that good deed was preventing Krishna's descent a little longer. Narada wanted Krishna to come down faster, as soon as possible. And so, to make that happen, he was hiring the sins of Kamsa, because the more sins he did, the quicker Krishna would come down. And so he was actually fastening the descent of Lord Krishna. So meanwhile, within the prison, shackled with iron chains, Vasudeva and Devaki gave birth to 6 sons year after year. And Kamsa, thinking each of them to be an incarnation of Vishnu, killed them one after another. He was particularly afraid of the 8th child. But after the visit of Narada, he came to the conclusion that any child might be Krishna. Therefore, it was better to kill all the babies who took birth in Devaki and Vasudeva. So, in the Krishna book, Prabhupada writes that the action of Kamsa is not very difficult to understand. There are many instances in the history of the world of persons in the royal order who have killed father, brother, or a whole family and friends for the satisfaction of their own self and ambitions. There is nothing astonishing about this, for the demoniac can kill anyone for their nefarious ambitions. So people like Kamsa, they will do anything for themselves. They will not think about others. Kamsa was made aware of his previous birth by the grace of Narada. He learned that in his previous birth he was a demon named Kalnebi, and that he was killed by Vishnu. Having taken his birth in the Bhoja family, he decided to become the deadly enemy of the Yadu dynasty. Krishna was going to take birth in that family, and Kamsa was very much afraid that he would be killed by Krishna, just as he was killed in his last birth. And then, do you know what he did? He imprisoned his own father, Ugrasen, because he was the chief king among the Yadu, Bhoja and Andhaka dynasties. And he also occupied the kingdom of Surasena, Vasudev's father. He declared himself the king of such places. Then, King Kamsa went around and made alliances with many demons until he was the strongest of all of them. He was the king of all the kings, and everybody was afraid of him. When Kamsa killed the 6 babies of Devaki and Vasudeva, one after another, mercilessly slaughtering them, many friends and relatives approached Kamsa to try to dissuade him from doing this heinous act. But eventually they also became worshippers of him. When Devaki became pregnant for the 7th time, a plenary expansion of Krishna, known as Ananta, appeared within her womb. Devaki was overwhelmed with both jubilation and lamentation. She was joyful, for she could understand that Lord Vishnu had taken shelter within her womb. But at the same time, she was sorry that as soon as her child would come out, Kamsa would kill him. At that time, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, being compassionate upon the fearful condition of the Yadus due to atrocities caused by Kamsa, ordered the appearance of his Yogamaya, who is his internal potency. Krishna is the Lord of the universe, but he is especially the Lord of the Yadu dynasty. The Lord thus informed Yogamaya, under the imprisonment of Kamsa are Devaki and Vasudeva, and at the present moment, my plenary expansion, Shesha, is within the womb of Devaki. You can arrange the transfer of Shesha from the womb of Devaki to the womb of Rohini. After this arrangement, I am personally going to appear in the womb of Devaki with my full potencies. Then I shall appear as the son of Devaki and Vasudeva, and you shall appear as the daughter of Nanda and Yashoda in Vrindavan. And then Krishna said that because you will appear as my sister, you will be known as many names, such as Durga, Bhadrakali, Krishna, Kamodaki, and many other names. At this time, the demigods who were watching all that was taking place, they offered their respects unto the internal potency of Sri Krishna and Sri Krishna himself. The Lord then declared to Yogamaya that his plenary expansion, Anantashesha, was within the womb of Devaki. On account of being forcibly attracted to the womb of Rohini, he would be known as Sankarshan and would be the source of all spiritual power, or Bala, by which one could be able to attain the highest bliss of life, which is called Ramana. Therefore, the plenary portion Ananta would be known after his appearance as Sankarshan or Balram. So Balram's appearance is also connected into the birth of Krishna. And so he is known as Sankarshan. And he was transferred from the womb of Devaki to the womb of Rohini. And in the Upanishads, it says that one cannot cross this ocean of material suffering without surrendering to the lotus feet of Lord Balram. And Bala means strength, not material strength, because with material strength, nobody can cross over the ocean of birth and death. But this Bala refers to spiritual strength. And Balram has all the spiritual strength, and only he can give us a particle of this, so that we have the strength and courage to cross the ocean of birth and death across a boat. And so this is what happened, and what will next happen we will see next week. So if you want to see how the story unfolds, you have to be here next week on Thursday, 7 p.m. same time. Now is the big time. It's time for the quiz. Some of the questions aren't really related to the story, but they're still, of course, related to Krishna. And they're a bit hard, so good luck. Number 1 is, what is the name of Krishna's bow? A. Is it the Gandiva? B. Is it the Sarovar? Or C. Is it Saranga? So Krishna actually has a bow, and it has a particular name. Actually, all Kshatriyas have weapons, and they have names. And so do the chariot's flags. They have certain pictures on it. So they signify something. And each warrior also has their own conch shell. And there is a particular verse that actually describes the conch shells of the 5 Pandavas and Krishna as well. So what is the name of Krishna's bow? A. Gandiva, B. Sarovar, C. Saranga. Alright, just gonna calculate the points. Okay, Ratnavali Mataji has given her answer. Anybody else? Number 2. Who is Krishna's chariot driver? A. Akrura, B. Daruka, C. Agni. So who is Krishna's chariot driver? Krishna, in many different places, he plays different pastimes, and he is a bit different in each place. He acts differently and behaves differently according to the place. Like in Vrindavan, he has a different relationship with his parents, the gopis, the cowherd boys. Then in Dwarka, he has different relationship with his queens. And then in Mathura, he had a different relationship with Kamsa, of course. Alright. Number 3 is, how many arms does Vishnu have? This one is a pretty easy one. A. 4, B. 6, or C. 8. So how many arms does Vishnu have? Okay, 1. And another one. Anybody else? Okay. Number 4 is, who was Kamsa's father? A. Vyasadev, B. Dasharath, or C. Ugrasen? So remember, in the story, Kamsa imprisoned his own father because he was the leader of the Yadu dynasty as well. And so who was he? A. Vyasadev, B. Dasharath, or C. Ugrasen? Yes. Got one answer? And I've got another answer. Alright. Number 5 is, what is the name of Krishna's conch shell? A. Is it Panchajanya? B. Is it Jaladuta? Or C. Is it Devadatta? So, which of the following is Krishna's conch shell? So is it A. Panchajanya, B. Jaladuta, or C. Devadatta? Atravani Mataji, wow, you're so quick. And yes, Vishwapati Mataji's answer. Alright. And the winner of this short quiz is Ratnavali Mataji. Thank you both for participating. The runner-up is Vishnupati Devidasi. And so thank you for participating in the quiz. So today we looked at how Narada informed Kamsa of how the demigods were being born in the family and to be prepared. And then Kamsa imprisoned his sister and brother-in-law. And then he killed all their 6 sons. And the 7th son was actually Balram, who was transferred to the womb of Rohini. And so, by the potency of Yoga Maya, everybody thought it to be a miscarriage. And so that was for today. And part 3 will be next week. But before we conclude, there are 2 things that I'd just like to touch upon from today. So the first is how demons can never be trusted. So however outwardly kind they may look, or if in instances they may behave nicely or show compassion like Kamsa did, their minds are very fickle, and at any moment they can change. At one moment they may like you, and in the next you are their enemy. And so even though Kamsa showed compassion to his nephew, hearing Narada's words, he completely changed. And so we have to be careful of these kinds of people, and hence we have to choose who we associate with wisely. And number 2 is whoever is at the face of death. So when he is nearing death, they will do anything if they can in their power to avoid it or prevent dying, or at least trying their best to make it go slowly. And they will do anything, especially people like Kamsa. And like it said in the story, people like Kamsa will do anything for their own ambitions. They don't care for anybody else but themselves. They will even use their friends as their shield. So these were the 2 lessons. And so next week we will look at the next part of the story. So thank you everybody for watching, and thank you for participating in the quiz. Thank you Ratnavali Mataji so much. Yes. Thank you so much for supporting me always. And yes, I'll try to keep doing my best and keep going forward. So please bless me. Hare Krishna.